1st Street, Yankee Stadium.
Swung on and hit in the air. The deep center. Gets back, away back. She is gone.
All right, welcome back to the Boys of 161st Street, episode 214. Today is going to be a very special episode. We are officially, when is the exact day for the trade deadline?
August 2nd.
August 2nd, so we're officially under a month out of the trade deadline. There's a lot of rumors swirling around the rumor mill. We're going to talk about the rumors, but also come around with our own plans that we think the Yankees should actually go and do, who we should actually trade, who we should target, and what the roster looks like after that. This is the first time we're actually going to do a formal plan. We've been just talking about, one-off players that, have been floating around the rumor mill, but this time we're actually going to go into a deep dive of all the available free agents. We're going to call it trade targets. It's going to call it a little bit of a trade deadline extravaganza. A lot of other stuff. We're going to talk about the Red Sox series, obviously, that we split, which looked good at times and bad at times. But before we get into all that, how are we doing, fellas? Damon just moved, so that's fun. Moved out of my apartment, so
yeah, it's a little upsetting, but we'll get back over there as much as we can. I'm only a mile away.
Think about the people you're affecting, Damon.
You're affecting the listeners.
It's not you, it's me.
Murph, how are you doing?
How you doing?
Doing all right. Good as we can be.
Such a dad answer.
Why good as you can be?
Murph's been in a funk for like a month and a half, for those of you who can't tell. His work's been stressful, so.
Murph just does like dad phrases. He's like, yep, doing what you can,
Yep.
taking day by day.
Yeah, living the dream.
Live the dream.
Love the dream.
Doing
That's
what
not
we can.
going anywhere.
All right.
Baseball.
So,
Yep.
Red Sox series.
Yeah.
Opening thoughts on that before we get into the meat of this episode, that is the trade deadline. So, obviously at sometimes the first two games we took, second one handedly, and then after that, getting walked off didn't feel fucking good. And then the last game was close, and then it wasn't, and then it became a blowout. So, just opening thoughts on that.
I don't think it's like that big of a deal, not gonna lie, but like it doesn't feel good and that's kind of obvious, but the ways that we lost didn't feel great. We got our ass kicked and walked off. So, and those were the last two games of the series, so it leaves a sore taste in your mouth. But I think it did expose, not that we didn't know this already, but I think it's kind of becoming clear now that the Yankees are coming back down to earth in the spots that we thought they were. The bullpen obviously needs some help, and the fact that they've made it almost to the deadline as solid as they have, fine, good, can't complain. Starting rotation, ditto. JMO has been just fucking bad for his last four starts. I sent that. If somebody, I know Luke has his phone up in front of him. If you could look at that stat that I sent in there for what Jamison Tyon's done over his last four, I think he's given up 20 earned runs in 20 innings, something like that. So, like I said, I don't think the sky's falling, no shit, but I don't think that it's a huge deal. We're coming up to the trade deadline. We're coming up to the All-Star break where people get rest. It is what it is. We've made it this far, and we've been damn good. So make some moves and get back out there. I don't think it's worth anything.
Tyon has allowed 20 runs in 20 and 2/3 innings, 8.70 ERA over his last four starts, including tonight. That's the most recent start.
Yeah, so that's a problem. And that's something that has to be addressed at the deadline. We've talked about it at length, that they have to go out, and if they're serious about contending, you have to go get a frontline starter. Because as it sits, realistically, we have a bunch of good three starters on their best days, maybe some low-end twos, again, on their best days, but they've done a great job to this point. You can't complain when you have a 14-game lead in the division. You still split with the Red Sox, who are proving to be a good team, but I think it actually came at a good time in a weird way, because it highlighted it highlights that we need to go and do the things that we all thought that we might need to do. This just solidifies that. And I think, like we talked about in the last episode, with this being so many question marks moving forward, and this being the last year on Cashman's contract, I think that kind of was the final nail in the coffin, knock on fucking wood, that we're going to go do stuff that makes this team better and gives them a true chance to contend in October.
Yeah, I mean, the sky's definitely not falling. We all know that. We split the series, and that's perfectly fine. I mean, it looks bad those last 2 games, but then at the end of the day, the people that needed those wins were the Red Sox, who are in a dogfight for the final playoff spots. We have a 15 or 14 and a half game lead at this point, so it's a net 0 by splitting. I mean,
we're also a couple errors away from taking. If Donaldson fields that ball cleanly in a walk-off game, we win that game. It's over. That's a tailor-made double play ball. He dropped it. I'm not shitting on Donaldson. I shit on him all the time. Not here. He played lights out this weekend. Hats off to him. Unfortunate that it happened, but it happens. IKF made a bad error. That was kind of the turning point in the other game. You know what I feel about that, so move on to that. Sorry to interrupt, but that was just kind of that was something I wanted to add, is because
I agree.
Even though we lost 2 games, we were well within striking distance. Obviously, the second one looks inflated by the scoreboard, but we had a 6-2 lead at one point in that game. So carry on. Sorry.
No, and I just wanted to add too that, I mean, it's against, most recently against Boston and against the Astros, and you could look at that and say that it's not a big deal because it's against good teams and he's going to get roughed up by good teams more so than bad teams. But at the same time, when you have a 15-game lead, you don't have to really worry about it as much of an AL East race. But, I mean, as Cone and other people were talking about on the actual broadcast, which the Sunday night broadcast I thought was actually not that bad. It was actually pretty good. I like Carl Ravitch. I like Cone. It's a lot better than the A-Rod cast, which is happening on a separate stream with K. So, I mean, I would like to see the numbers on that to see who's actually tuning into that versus the regular broadcast. But love Coney. But they were talking about that too, is like, do you think you have a 15-game lead? Do you think about the playoffs and obviously you do think about the playoffs, but you're not going to say it. But do you think about more specifically in this moment the Mets, the Braves, the other teams outside the division, the Dodgers? Do you think about those teams and how you stack up against them at this point? And Cone was like, absolutely you do, because I mean, you're not dumb, you're not blind. You have a 15-game lead. You don't want to take that for granted, but you also need to stack up against these other teams that you're going to have to go through, and you don't want to be naive and just ignore them. Like you have to see, like, okay, this is what the Astros have that we don't have, that we might be exposed to in a series against them, and that's what you saw right now. It's like Tyone had a great first half of the year up until this last month. That last month, it's you don't want to read too deeply into it because it's a small sample size on an entire half season of pretty good pitching, pretty almost dominant pitching by Tyone. But like I said, you're starting to look at those things as you've afforded yourself with this 15-game lead and look at, in a real World Series matchup, like against these NL opponents, you want to be able to win. You don't want to just be, it's not good enough to just get there at this point with the team that we have. We talked about in the last episode that we want to fully blow up the farm pretty much to get marginally better and actually be able to win the damn thing. Like we've noticed in the past 10 years, I'm tired of just getting there. You really have to look at these other teams. And when you see Tyone getting messed up by teams that you will face, the Red Sox and the Astros, Rays as well, probably, but like those specific two that he just got roughed up against, that's a real issue. So like everybody's talking about the outfield as being a big issue, and we'll talk about that in the trade deadline piece of this episode in the back half. But I know we have talked about going after pitching like Frankie Montas and other pitchers of the like, but I don't know. I think it's this definitely. You're right. It could not have come at a better time that we needed to see this. I'm honestly a little bit happy about this because obviously I'd be happier if he continued to pitch good. But if it was going to show its fucking ugly head, I'd rather it show it now and we can fix the problem or get depth than finding out in the playoffs that he just can't do it. So
this isn't even to say that he's not going to be a staple in the rotation for the rest of the year or anything like that. I think if you end up going and getting a frontline starter, there's tons of possibilities that can happen. He's not going to stop pitching for the Yankees. He's going to be starting games, and that's fine. He's a good pitcher. He's fine. He's exactly what we need him to be. He's coming back down to earth as a 4 or 5 starter. That's what we wanted out of him. That was our expectation. He far exceeded that in the first half up until this last month, like he said, and good, great. That's part of the reason why we have this lead, and we can afford to... I mean, if we had split a series against the Red Sox last year at this time, that way, we would have all been like, you know what, fuck this team, man. Like, I'm over it. But this year we can afford to take that. We're like, yeah, you know what, whatever. Like the Red Sox won their World Series. Also, I think that's funny that people say that every time a team beats us, but it's true. You know,
It did look like it, though.
That's
Even Alyssa said that when I was
Yeah.
watching the game. She was like, we were just FaceTiming, and she was like, what are they cheering for? Like, she actually said, like, what is this? Is a random game. This is July, which I was super proud of her for pointing that out. And I was like, you know what? You're right. What the fuck are they cheering for? Like, and I guess that's what it feels like to beat this Yankees team right now. And I personally, sorry to cut you off, I just feel like it's really cool to see, even when, and we could talk about the mic'd up stuff in a little bit too. They were talking to Verdugo out there, and every question I feel like was posed in a way like, what's it like playing against Giancarlo Stanton? Like everything felt like we were the show to watch, and they were like, what's it like even being on the same dirt as Stanton?
But they were
and
even.
like,
Do you see Hubs even tweeted about that? He was like, "I'm loving these interviews." You know, Boone, like, what's it like coaching these amazing people? Like, you have historic seasons going on. How amazing is King? How amazing is everybody? And then to Cora, they're like, "Yo, why does Pivetta suck so much ass?"
but I mean, it's obvious. We all see it. It's the it's the opposite of that anti-Yankees broadcast that is whatever his fucking name is.
Smoltz.
That John Smoltz that we see.
Fuck that.
And like, but it's so funny how blatantly, and this is even better because it's to like Verdugo's face. Verdugo probably grabbed that earpiece and was like, sweet, I'm gonna be mic'd up, this is gonna be fun, they're gonna compliment my chains, which they talked about for a bunch, but like we're gonna talk about how like well we're playing, which they are playing really good baseball, and they have a very good team this year. But every question, it seemed, was like, how far did that home run go by Stanton? He was like, yeah, man, I mean, we knew Stanton had a lot of power. Like, that's obvious. It's been that way for the past however many years. Every question was about that, and I thought that was really fucking funny. But I don't know how we got here, but
Before the interviews, even that whole broadcast, that whole series felt like a playoff series, and that was
it did.
when they walked it off. They were celebrating like they won a playoff game, and then about halfway through the game on Sunday, they were saying this feels like a playoff environment. There's "Let's go Yankees" chants. Like the crowd is into every pitch. On a pickoff, they're booing them. On ball 3, they're booing them.
Judge MVP chance in Fenway.
Judge
too.
MVP, yeah. Like it felt like you were watching a playoff game, and it's been a little while, I think, since a Yankees Red Sox regular season game has felt like a playoff game.
Yeah,
Especially in July. So that was kind of cool to see.
Yeah.
and that's definitely gonna make the series this weekend like that much better. Like the Red Sox coming to the Bronx, and
Are they coming to the Bronx?
I'm pretty sure that's the Reds,
Yep.
Damon. No, wait, the
Nope,
Red Sox
Friday-
are coming as
Friday,
well.
Saturday,
We're going
Sunday.
Reds, then Red Sox. Sorry, I saw somebody on Twitter make this same. Like, they're like, man, I can't believe that the Reds are coming, or the Red Sox are coming to town on Tuesday. So that was me taking out my anger at that person on Twitter on you, and I apologize.
We
Yes,
might have
we
to
have-
face
it's-
sale on that next
yeah,
series.
we have Red Sox Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Fucking hide our banners and TVs if sales in town. What
Yeah,
a pussy. That was so funny.
He played it off so well, though.
I don't agree.
I mean,
He
I think you
looking for
I think you
a
try to play it off
sponsorship
well.
from Samsung. I don't know. I thought he handled it.
That was after the fact, but the initial comment made it seem like he was just better than everybody. That's why he's like, if you wanted me to work at, where was it? Bank
Bank
of America.
He's like, I wouldn't act like that. He's like, I don't have a normal job. Like, fuck you, Dick. You're not a Navy SEAL, buddy.
I'm better than you
fucking-
guys.
A 34-year-old
Which he is,
pitcher
but
that hasn't
whatever.
thrown into you. Yeah, that's neither here nor there. But
No one said we were better than him. He
No.
just came at us for no reason.
I think that's my favorite comment.
The everyman, the average Joe for no reason.
That's my
Yeah.
favorite comment that people put on like any, not just ours, but any person who talks about the Yankees and like has some sort of platform to do so. Is like, oh yeah, well you're just sitting on the fucking couch. Like, yeah, I'm not a world class athlete. That's not news. A, and B, even remotely insulting. I know that I'm not in the majors, nor should I ever be, nor should I ever have been. I mean, other than
Yeah.
my damn shoulder injury, but you know.
Clint Frazier used to say it all the time on podcasts. He
Bite
would,
your
like,
tongue. His name's not Clint. It's
Sorry,
Jackson.
I was gonna
Jackson.
call him Stewart.
Jackson
Why?
Frazier.
I thought that was what he went by now.
He always was just like, yeah. What if I came to your job and just started booing you while you're at your computer? I was just like, I don't know,
I mean,
man.
if I did it as shitty as
It'd
you
be pretty
did,
cool
that's
actually,
fair.
but
Pretty cool.
maybe motivate me a little bit. I don't know.
I don't know. Sorry, got a little off the rails there.
No, how did
Yeah.
we get
It
here?
just makes me laugh.
How did we get here?
I was just
Let's reel it back.
we were talking about
Yeah.
Chris Sale.
Reeling it back a little bit more.
That
We're
series in
getting
the
to
Bronx is gonna be a fantastic series, and I think that obviously the last one, whatever, 14-game lead, you split it.
Let's start.
But I think that this is pretty big as far as building momentum for the back half, and that may be obvious to say. I don't know. Maybe I'm just a fucking idiot, but I think when you have the Reds, who you should beat up on, coming into town. Actually, I think they just swept the Phillies. Somebody, I don't know. They
did.
they're playing good baseball, but that's still a team you should beat. You need to beat the Reds, at least 2 or 3, and then you roll in and you have that huge, like you said, playoff atmosphere rolling in right before the All-Star break. You got 6 All-Stars. You have your feel-good moment, whatever, and then back to business. That's a huge momentum builder going into that break.
Dude, I mean, we have some big games coming up before the All-Star break. We have Red Sox, then we go right into Houston, at Houston.
They're after the break.
That's
think,
after the break.
Oh, is it?
Yeah,
Well,
I think it's
anyway.
right after
the Red
Red
Sox
Sox.
series this weekend. So
Oh,
Sunday,
right,
Sunday
right.
is the last game before the break, I think.
Well, I think that's even more
Yeah.
toward to Chandler's point. Like, we need to come back to the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, and with like all lines banging against the Astros, like literally the second best team in the league right now.
We have Astros, then the Orioles, who have been on an 8-game win streak
Dude,
recently.
they're
are
three
apparently
games
no
back in the
fucking
wild card right
slouch.
now.
Yeah,
I'm really pulling for that. Like
me too.
I would really
Maybe-
like the Orioles to make a playoff spot.
Did you see
Do
the
they become
stat?
That would
buyers?
mean that they bounce one of the other 3 teams who I hate, and I don't mind the Orioles. Once they become good for a while, like right now, I'm really pulling for them. But like if they're
Dude, that'd
good
be
for like
that'd
4
be
years
so
and like
sick
knock us
if they're-
out at some point, then I'll hate
Did you
them.
see
But
their
for right now,
payroll
I'm
is
really.
less than Max Scherzer's yearly salary?
Is it?
Yeah,
Isn't that like 45 million? That's
yeah,
like,
something like
that's
that.
nothing.
It's so
Dude,
funny.
if they made the playoffs, that would be a documentary right there.
No, and that would be. I don't know if that'd be a documentary, but
Breaking news.
I think that would be just fun.
Albert Pujols officially in the home run derby.
Was that the
way.
one
That's
that the
amazing.
commissioner can choose?
No, that was for the All-Star game, but he's in the actual home run derby.
Is he
this-
actually?
Is Stanton doing the all?
Stanton,
Stanton
Alonso,
wants to. Stanton is
Acuna.
doing it.
Acuna.
Can I take
Yeah.
2
Pujols.
seconds? I'm not really much to shit on the Mets like every day because I don't really care that much. So the Mets, we don't play them that much. It is what it is. Yeah, they're the crosstown rivals. Does anybody care more about something that's pretty insignificant than Pete Alonso does the home run derby? What a fucking douche, man! Why
Yeah,
does
usually,
he care so much?
Usually, whenever you win it, you like Judge won it,
has
Stanton
not-
won it, and they don't do it since because it's like, all right, I can clearly win it again, so let me let other people give it a chance. So I feel like maybe that's a little bit of a rivalry situation going. It's like Stanton's maybe let's just throw the narrative out there and just straight up lie to people that the reason Stanton's doing it is because he hates Pete Alonso and he wants to take his throne
I
back.
hate Pete Alonso, dude.
That's fair,
any
right? I
grown
feel
man
like that might be the case.
that calls himself the fucking polar bear, get out of here, dude. He's like, yeah, I'm going for a fucking 3P. Like, yeah, dude, nobody fucking cares.
So
Like, it's-
Stanton thinks that Pete Alonso's fat and he wants to take his throne back from him.
I'll take that.
I think Alonso wants to be like a 3-time winner, like
He won't be with Stanton.
fucking Griffey
Stanton's gonna
and-
fucking smoke him.
Yeah, except for Griffey is an all-time great. Fucking Pete Alonso is just
He's having a good year. But
he's
he's
good.
Not, he's not a.
Pete Alonso's
yeah.
good. I would argue that right now he is the 3rd best first baseman in New York.
Dude, he
Wait,
beat
what?
I would take Rizzo and DJ over him in a heartbeat.
He's having a pretty damn good year. But I would take off the field Rizzo's. Yeah, I would take Rizzo. I think I would take Pete Alonso over DJ at first. I don't know. He's having a good year, but
He's a good player. He's a very good player. He's just fucking. I just don't like him.
I don't like him.
Do you
either.
see
I
him
think he
like
fucking
too?
sucks.
Like they'll interview him after he's like, that just shows I'm the best power hitter in the fucking game. Like, no, you're not. Like just because you can hit batting practice home runs doesn't mean dick, dude. Like, I don't know. I just wanted to bring a little light to that because I fucking hate that guy.
he wants to become the first person to win 3. Sorry, I misspoke. Griffey and UNS Cespedes have 2.
That's some elite company right there.
Yeah.
Kid Griffey and Jonas Cespedes.
I thought Cano had 2. No,
no, he
the
just
one?
had the one.
Does
Shame.
Bryce Harper not have 2?
He just won also.
Sorry,
The one
all these
Bryce
articles
Harper,
are wrong.
The one Bryce Harper one in DC was fucking awesome.
Yeah, that one was ridiculous.
Yeah, that was cool.
I love Bryce
I
Harper.
don't know.
Sorry,
I'm more interested
Griffey-
now.
Sorry, Griffey has 3, but not 3 in a row. So he wants to be on the first to do 3 in a row.
Oh, is it 2 in a row?
They had
That
a
he has
home run
right
derby
now?
in 2020.
Yeah, he has 2 in a row. He also do 3 in a row.
That's sick as fuck, dude.
I just want Stan to fucking destroy him.
Is Judge doing it? No way, right?
No, he said he
No
he
shot.
literally turned him down in like April.
Yeah.
Too much to play for this year.
I wonder how. Cool
Imagine he gets hurt and fucking.
The first thing that I see right now on Pete Alonso's baseball reference page up top, it's Rookie of the Year, 1-time All-Star, 2-time Home Run Derby champ. That's the part. He probably is telling baseball reference, hey, could you put that in bigger letters and like put it in the top of the screen?
Yeah, you know when they do the Hall of Fame evaluation, it's like, whoa, you know, he didn't have that great of a career, but he did win 3 home run derbies. Like,
Well, he's not going to because Stan's going to beat him. But
Dude, I'll say I remember last year it was 100% the BP thrower.
oh yeah, dude,
that
was
BP
money.
thrower was amazing.
Dude, he was just darting them on his
But he
chest
was
all
throwing
night
fucking
long.
BBs.
in the same exact spot every single time.
Same
Which
spot.
that's why I mean Gallo was in it. I mean maybe that was a little bit of a foreshadow for how fucking bad he would be because everybody was like, oh my god. I remember betting on that and I was like, you know, I'm gonna take smart money is on Gallo. There's a lot of value on it. And he came out, and I'm pretty sure, if I remember correctly, he was atrocious. So I guess that's a good segue into the trade of him. But before we get into the trade rumors of Gallo for Benintendi, which we'll talk about in a second,
Gallo for Benintendi.
that was the rumors going around.
No,
By
no. They
fucking
were
who?
saying they were saying we're gonna get Benny and trade Gallo.
Oh yeah, it's not gonna be. Yeah, he'll be in the deal. He's not.
I was gonna
Gallo's not gonna
say-
be headlining, but we're gonna get rid of him.
Apple's gonna fucking take our podcast down for misinformation if you say shit like that.
You wanna
No,
hear
but
a,
the rumor that was floating around was that there was potentially going to be a deal where Benintendi would come up. We've been checking in on Benintendi, and Gallo would be probably in that deal because they're trying to offload
No,
him.
No,
they're not gonna take him.
We'll
They
get to
don't-
that.
they're-
We'll get
they're
to that.
rebuilding.
we'll get
Okay,
to
Here's
it.
so
a
I
hot
don't know.
take if you
That's
want
just what I
to.
saw on the graphic.
We'll get to it. We'll get to
If
it.
you want to roll
You guys
into
want
it,
to do a home run derby bracket? How many people are there? 8. We got 4 of us. That could be something that we could put out there. Everybody put in like $20 or whatever, and we'll just draft names out of a hat. Everybody gets 2. If one of your guys wins, you get the pot.
That'd be fun. I don't want to facilitate it if you want to.
I'll do it. I mean, there's 4 of us. It's pretty easy.
Oh, with us? I thought
Yeah.
you meant like with the listeners.
No,
I was gonna say it's a lot of people. That don't wanna...
no. Us 4.
Yeah, no, I'm down. All right, let's reel it back. All Stars. This is a good thing to talk about here. So we talked about the home run derby, but the Yankees officially are sending 6 All Stars, which, I mean, that's the most I've seen in recent memory. I don't know what we've been sending. I know Judge has been there. This is his 4th time. But the one thing to me, a couple things here, is that Nestor Cortez obviously making it, Clay Holmes making it, Garrett Cole, Stanton in the outfield, which isn't shocking because he's played a lot of outfield this year, and Judge, and then Jose Trevino. The one here that I think is just, if the All-Star game was a month later, I don't think Nestor Cortez would be on an All-Star team.
good thing it's in July, brother. I'm glad he got it.
Did you see the video of him and the videos of the different guys that got it? Like Jose Trevino was awesome. It was like, you know, if you told me a year ago I'd be a Yankee and an All-Star, like he was like about to break down. That was cool. And then Clay Holmes, our neighbor, shout out, was like, yeah, he was like, sweet. He's like, dude, you have a career 5 ERA before last year. That's your reaction. He's just like,
Calm,
yeah,
cool, collected. It's closing.
I mean, he was probably expecting it though. I don't think
No,
Trevino was on the line. You know?
it was just funny because like
I mean, Clay Holmes
this is Clay
was
Holmes.
the most dominant person in baseball.
Yeah.
Potentially. I know what you mean.
I'm not saying
that's
he didn't
probably why he
deserve
wasn't
it.
shocked.
It was just funny because he was like the best reliever in baseball is going to be an All-Star. He's like, sweet. He's like,
Yeah,
that-
but like,
he was like,
he knew that was coming though.
he
Like,
the new
Trevino,
DJ?
like
But he
Trevino
was-
had no idea.
he was like, that's you. And he's like, cool.
Is he the new DJ robot, like a robot, no emotion?
I don't know. I'll have to meet him.
Dude, if they hang out, DJ and Clay Holmes just like by himself, that would be the funniest thing ever. That'd be like what was that one when Corey Kluber threw the no hitter and there was that meme going around that was like, good job throwing not letting any hits. And he was like, thanks. It was like the two robots talking to each other.
But speaking of Trevino has some fucking tree trunk legs. Did you see that video?
Yeah.
Also, those videos were kind of. I saw so many comments like, "Why is this taking place on a couch?" It did look a little funky, but when the one camera angle of showing the casting couch, but one angle showed Trevino just getting down onto the couch for a second, and it showed his legs first, and he has fucking tree trunk legs.
And yeah, he's a major league catcher.
I know, but I thought
one of the comments was like a casting couch, and it was like Nestor Cortez, this you. I was like, oh my god, that's it's so goddamn funny.
But I don't know, man. I think with the people that were sending, I don't think there's any surprises. But
I'm surprised Michael King didn't make it.
Yeah.
I know it's mostly closers, but like,
yeah,
dude's been pretty nice.
It
wouldn't surprise me. I mean, I'm not gonna read the entire list of pitchers.
I mean,
if he
dude,
wasn't the seventh guy, it kind of would have made sense. But
it sucks. There wasn't room for him, but he did deserve it. This is what I'm getting at.
We talked about it the other episode. Like, the system is so broken. Like,
oh yeah, Carlos Rodon
did not even become an all-star. How does that happen?
He's leading the NL in every stat.
Him and Ty France, yeah, exactly. Ty France got robbed. Like, the system's broken, dude. I mean, it sucks for them because they didn't get like the title, but Jesus, this is just it's so bad,
dude.
It's so bad, man.
I mean, I'm gonna sit here and revel in our glory because the Yankees have 6, but I do agree that
is that the most of any team?
I have to assume so. I'm not gonna look, but I'm gonna say yes. Yeah. But
talking about misinformation.
Yeah, again, it's fine.
It's not.
Thank you, Murph.
Thanks. For the Yankees, it is.
So why don't we, right before we're about to get into the trade deadline stuff, but why don't we talk about we've talked about trade for Benintendi already before, but now there's been some rumors swirling around that we have checked in on Benintendi. A lot of teams already probably have. Smoke or fire, do you think this is legit? Do you think we actually have a chance at bringing Benintendi into the Bronx? And I know we all want Benintendi. He's having a great year. Just like, do you think that we actually are going to get him?
If I may, I would compare Benintendi, at least right now, kind of to like Gallo last year. Not necessarily, obviously, nowhere.
That'll be good.
Not player wise. I'm just saying, you heard us link to Gallo for months and months and months, and there was like, yeah, they checked in on Gallo, but the price is high. But they're still checking on Gallo's every single week, and then eventually something got done. I feel in my bones that it's going to be a little bit Gallo-esque the way this trade comes together.
Yeah, I mean, for those that haven't been paying attention to Royals baseball this year, can't really blame you. But Benintendi this year has been hitting .317. He has 1.9 WAR this year. He's got a 128 WRC plus. Not striking out a ton at a 14% rate. He's having a very good year as a Gold Glover. He's been good. This is his first good year, not first good year, but this is his best year since 2018 probably. In 2018, and we have a lot of friends that are Red Sox fans. They all absolutely love Benintendi, and they thought that he was going to be the next. I was talking about this with Matt, our resident Red Sox fan, at some point when he was on the Red Sox when we were in college, and he was just like, he thought Benintendi was going to be a perennial silver slugger every single year. Like, that's the type of player that he was going to become. He's having a very good year this year, and maybe he's starting to flourish in that. I don't really know why they got rid of him, to be honest, because he's always been, even when we were playing against him on the Red Sox, I always felt like he was really good. And he's the type of player that I like. I mean, I didn't really love him when he was a Red Sox, but now that it's been a little removed from that, I honestly feel like it would be more fun, too, to get him. It's extra incentive to get him because...
Anybody else have the play from Benintendi burned in their mind against the Astros?
The diving catch?
The sliding catch against the Astros in the ALCS.
Yeah.
The year that they fucking destroyed us.
I mean, that's important, though. He's been there. He's done that in the playoffs. He's played left field, which is one of the harder places to play.
I wasn't criticizing it. I was
just
saying that's what burned in my brain.
I had it burned in my brain, too. And he's played left field at Fenway. He's really well every time we've played him. I just have another thing burned in my brain of him just, like, spinning off the wall perfectly and gunning something out at second. Like, I feel like he just has that in him, and he doesn't need to play center field for us. He could definitely play. He'll probably be our everyday left fielder.
He's a left fielder by trade, isn't
I
he?
know, but I'm just saying. Sometimes when you trade, you move him over.
Left. He's only played left this year. I think it would make the most sense that if he comes over, left is his, and then when Hicks rotates in, he's going to be, playing a little center, a little left, a little right, depending on who's there. Judge has center, and then right is.
I think if a playoff game were to come and we were to have Benintendi, which a little foreshadowing, but if everything worked out the way that we all hope, and the way that the rumors are kind of flying, that Benintendi would be starting in left, Judge center, Stanton right for playoffs, Hicks would be a bench bat, and then Gallo would be gone. This is the way that I see it going down.
I could see it.
I don't know. It's kind of what I got.
You want to get into the trade deadline?
Sure.
Then you kind of tipped your hand a little bit. So
I tipped my hand a little bit.
Get in there.
Okay. How do you want me to go about this? You tell me. You want me to just read you what I think kind of...
Yeah. What are the moves?
A little bit of a framework of what I came up with today.
So you start with all of your moves. Chandler went a little bit more into the details on the actual trade packages that we would send out for these people, and then what the 40-man would look like after. And then the rest of us can then just chime in on what we think we would change and everything else. I have a list. I went through all of the teams that are 10-plus games out of the wild card at this very moment of their respective leagues. And then I pulled in when they become a free agent, their salaries, etc., and then all of the statistics for them for the year as well. So we have this kind of as like a bank to bounce off of your deals to make sure that you're not getting a player that's making $30,000 or $30 million a year, it doesn't really make sense. So this is going to be just kind of a fact check on you, but
okay, fact check me away. And also, before anybody DMs us and tells us what about the 40-man, fuck you. I factored that in. This actually clears up one 40-man spot, so it leaves room for one more small move or to put somebody that's Rule 5 eligible on there. So middle finger to you if you're going to DM us and be that guy. Or gal. It's 2022. All right, so basically I got 4 moves. I think, it's selling a lot of people, but we talked about it before. The Yankees need to go for it all. I think they will go for it all. I think that these are not only realistic, but I think that it's what needs to happen. Yes, you're decimating the farm, but it's not destroying it. I don't know. I think it's a happy balance. I think it needs to happen. And this is more of just a framework. Obviously, the names will be different whenever you go, but this is kind of to give you an idea. So the first one I put on here, Andrew Benintendi. The more I looked into it today, the more I talked myself into it over Ian Happ, over Brian Reynolds, because I don't think he'll cost as much as those guys. And I think the Gold Glove left field, the good offense, he's a good table setter. He gets on base. He does everything right, everything that we need to balance out this lineup. I got him for Waldichuk, Pariah, and Antonio Gomez. I kind of followed the Joey Gallo framework on that one. They got 4 top 25 prospects, I think, something like that. So, this one you're getting 3. You're getting the number 5, number 10, and number 18 prospect, and you're sending them there. The Royals reportedly want 1 top prospect. This way you're getting a top 5 and then another top 10, another top 20. A younger guy with a lot of upside in Gomez, and then Pereira, I fuck that up every time, but he's our most highly touted outfielder right now, even over Florial. He's a young guy, whatever. Next one, this is kind of the big blockbuster. The Yankees get Luis Castillo, trade Peraza, Medina, Trey Sweeney, and Will Warren. That's the number 2, 6, 11, and 27 prospect. Looking back over the years, you got Greinke that took 4 people in their top 22. Verlander to the Astros took 3 top 20s. I think that's kind of gives you a little bit of a framework, but also, these are guys that they're willing to part with and that could be part of that. Will Warren, not a super high prospect, but he's still in the top 30s. Got solid upside, but not a superstar. Next one, this one may come as a shock to you guys, but Michael Fulmer. The Yankees have been rumored to him for years, especially when he was a starter. He's kind of a failed starter, had a bunch of injuries. I think he had some shoulder issues. 29 years old, won Rookie of the Year this year as a reliever only for the first time in his career. Sub-2 ERA. 32.2 innings pitched, 32 strikeouts. He's in the 94th percentile in expected ERA, 97th percentile in batting average. You know, everything that you want to see on Baseball Savant is red. Cool. For that, I got Andahar plus Cash and Josh Bro, so you get a good catching prospect, a top 25 guy, and you get Andahar basically for free. The Tigers have a lot of young outfielders that may need some time to marinate in the minors. This way you get a guy that's out there basically for free, like I said, who can be that stopgap until 2025. So, and then the last one, I have Joey Gallo to the Padres for Efren Contreras. So if there's anybody hear me out. I kind of followed the Luke Voigt framework for this one. If there's any diehard Padres prospect huggers and fans here, then I'm sorry if I offended you on this one. I just thought he kind of followed that framework really well. He's a high upside guy. He's 22 years old. He's kind of undersized. He's been hurt for 2 years, so nobody really knows. He had some Tommy John surgery, some other complications, but people project him as a back end rotation arm. He throws mid to high 90s. He's got really, really good command and a plus curveball. So I don't know. Those are my 4.
I like all those moves. I'll start there. I think they all make sense. I mean, these are the ones that we've been other than the last one you said. I didn't even know who that was for a second. Who was that?
Efren Contreras. He's he's a 20-year-old prospect for the Padres. So
okay. I mean,
I was just looking.
That is the exact framework that Gallo, or that Voigt was traded for. So I can see something like that happening. I just personally, I know Gallo's been bad, and I guess this is one thing that I will say. I said the first time when we were talking about trading Gallo that I don't think it makes sense to trade him just to trade him, but with that being said, if in one fell swoop you're also getting a Benintendi or getting another defender, then I'm fully behind it, because then he doesn't have a place. So if you can get he's being a free agent next year, right?
Gallo?
Yeah. So,
but I mean, this guy, you're not just throwing him away either. This is a guy that he was a highly touted guy. He just hasn't played in 2 years. He's still 22 years old.
I'm saying, like, if you do trade for a Benintendi, Gallo has no place on this team other than a pinch hitter, so then that's wasted. And if we go for Benintendi or another outfielder, maybe Ramon Liriano or something like that, I'm just throwing a name out there. That's not necessarily who I want to get. Murph might want to. But if you are getting another outfielder, it's almost going to feel as though like what it felt like with the Freddie Freeman situation, but way dumbed down, obviously. They went and got Matt Olson before Freddie Freeman was even gone. So then it's like, okay, well, Freddie Freeman's going to go. So that's how I feel about it. And if that's the case and he has no purpose other than a pinch hitter, then you need to get rid of him and at least salvage something out of him and get a prospect, which I fully am on board for that. Maybe not. And I guess that's you calling your shot on that. Anything like that is similar to what I can expect the Yankees to do out of Gallo if we do get rid of him. And I think I think the likelihood of us trading Gallo is very high if we do get an outfielder, which I think the
likelihood's high regardless. And I saw that I basically just took the teams that he's been rumored to, mainly the Padres, mainly the Rangers, and I kicked around all the different the lower level, like 20 and below, or 19. I think he's the 19th ranked prospect there, which might be a little high rankings wise. But again, you look at the peripherals, the lack of innings, he's young, all these different things. He's not a super terribly high upside guy. It makes sense. That's basically my criteria that I looked at for that Gallo trade, was the teams he was rumored for an arm to stash in the minors and hope that he pans out to be a mid-back rotation arm in 5 years. And this guy fits that bill almost to a T, and especially something that the Yankees like. He throws hard and he locates well.
Yeah.
Chandler, can I ask you this?
Oi.
Sorry, so you were talking about Gallo, and obviously we need to bring in another starter. Another team that he was rumored to is maybe going back to Texas.
Yeah.
And there's also rumors of Martin Perez being available for a trade. Obviously, Gallo for Perez isn't going to happen, but do you think that there's a package we can put together that includes Gallo that can bring back Perez and in correspondence with another deal that brings an outfielder in?
Is Martin Perez that really old? Like really old?
He's
guy?
an all-star
31-year-old
this year,
pitcher.
Oh, so I'm thinking of a different person then.
That wouldn't shock me totally, but I mean, I have his stats up right here. I think if the Yankees are going to dip into the starting pitching market, they're going to get a bona fide 2 at the most. And I don't think that Martin Perez fits that. I think that they're kind of making a lateral move with that. Yeah, you're getting rid of Gallo, you're shipping him back to Texas, fine, whatever. But you're bringing in a pitcher who's more of the same. Would he help this team? Maybe. He's having a career year. Awesome. But I'm not pushing my chips in there. And I know that Gallo isn't pushing your chips in, but it's going to take more than Gallo to get a guy like that having a career year on a bad team. So I guess I could see it, but I wouldn't bank on that. I think there's just so many more moves. And I think that getting a guy who has upside, and like I said, these are just frameworks. The guy from the Padres is probably not going to happen. That would be just fucking wild if I called some low-level 22-year-old.
Calling your shot.
Yeah, but it's the framework for it. I think that's the most realistic thing for Gallo.
But I will say this too. Like you mentioned before, that if we don't get an outfielder, still trade. I don't agree with that. I think if we don't get an outfielder, there is no point.
We're getting an outfielder.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. Let me preface it with this: is like if we do not get an outfielder, does anybody here still want to trade Gallo? Because I don't think that makes any sense at all.
Yeah,
because then we just don't like as useless as he may seem.
Bringing in an outfielder.
Yes, but if let's say we don't get an outfielder, we aren't going to get an outfielder, and all said and done, and we traded Gallo and now do not have his replacement. Get anything in return for him because he's proven that he cannot help this big league roster, at least on the Yankees. I'm not saying his career's over. I'm not saying his career's dead because I think he can. Though we need a person to play the outfield. I know Hicks has been playing better baseball, but
I would rather
if somebody goes down, you don't like that.
Carpenter, you've got Florials hitting fucking.
I'd have to disagree with that.
Now. I think Gallo's gone. There's no world that Gallo's a Yankee.
I hope that's the case. But Damon, you think that you would trade him even if we don't get an outfielder?
Yeah, I do. And I think I'd like to. I'll rephrase that a little bit. I don't know if we will, but I would like to because like Chandler said, we do have some people who can still play the outfield position besides Gallo. Like we can get rid of him right now and still field an outfield that I would be confident in.
He doesn't even start every night anymore.
That's true.
Yeah, and I think that
Andujar in the wings. But I just you have so many options. There's no reason that you don't cash in something on Gallo before he's a free agent because they're not re-signing him.
Right, but I think that the last few games especially have, highlighted that, like, obviously we've had a historic year from the pitching side of things, but we talked about it earlier in the episode. JMO has struggled the last 4 games, and really for the first time all season, I felt like we've kind of blown some late games. Again, like we lost against the Red Sox in the 10th inning, allowing 3 runs, and then we allowed 4 runs in the 7th against them. Those are both like big innings late in the game that we have not really seen happen too often this season so far. So if we were going to go out there and trade Gallo, and we didn't get another outfield replacement, I'd be totally fine with that if we just got more depth pitching wise.
I don't think what we're going to get from a Gallo trade, if it's solely Gallo, is going to be someone that makes an impact on the roster this year. So I think
probably
it's going to be
not.
Something exactly what Chandler said. It's going to be a prospect, a good one hopefully, but
it's going to be an okay prospect that has decent upside, but
I don't think we're going to get
very big downside.
Yeah, no MLB impact, I think, is what we're going to get for 2022, and I think that's what you just have to expect. And if anybody thinks the Joey Gallo of old that we traded for, like we lost that Gallo deal. We've officially lost the deal. We're looking to offload him for pennies on the dollar. I don't know. I just think that if we're going to get no impact, I don't know. I wouldn't be opposed to bringing up people. I think, like you said, I forgot Andujar would be an option as well, but Andujar might be in a package as well.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think that was honestly, not to toot my own horn or bring attention to it, but I think that was honestly right there one of my more realistic but also under the radar moves is bringing in a guy like Michael Fulmer. The Yankees have been linked to him for years, and I think a package like that makes sense because this is his first good year in 6 years, and it's solely as a reliever. He's 29, he's injury prone, but he would bring so much value to this team in late innings. I think that Andahar Cash and a top 25 prospect, a power hitting catcher, and Josh Bro, I think that gets that deal done, and I would do that in a heartbeat. And I don't know.
Go back to
I
your.
think that was
your,
the best of all your deals, by the way.
Thanks,
You
Mark.
Yeah.
throw that in. Like I was
Also-
glad you said Fulmer.
Also, Josh Bro is like not like he just got called up, but he got called up so that Austin Wells could get called up. Like he's not really envisioned to be like the Yankees
He's a
catcher, the new franchise catcher. Like they believe in Austin Wells, and Josh Bro was just kind of like moving him up so that Austin Wells can get his chance in the next level.
No, I agree. Josh Bro is and I like Josh Bro. He's a great guy. Met him. Don't laugh at me.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, he's friends with Locke.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So Bro is he's a good player. He's a power hitting catcher, doesn't hit for a high average. He's more of the same kind of what we have. I don't know that he's Rule 5 eligible again. Don't know that he necessarily has that long-term outlook as a Yankee. So I think you trade him now, get what you can, and a rental bullpen guy that may or may not actually be a bullpen guy, I think makes too much sense. It was between that and a guy like Diego Castillo, who he has a 5 ERA, but his peripherals are good. That seems like another guy that Cashman would really, push the chips in on. Not push the chips, but relatively speaking.
A couple names that you didn't mention that I would just, I guess I'll just bring up now on my list. Keep in mind that I didn't look at the Tigers because they are currently 8.5 out of wild card, so I didn't want to fully write them off as sellers. But
that's not even a seller
doesn't
move.
necessarily. Yeah, no, that doesn't necessarily mean that teams won't trade and make lateral moves while trying to still be competitive. But of all the teams that are probably going to be full blown sellers, I looked at the teams, like I said, that are 10 out of their wild card, which is the Athletics, Cubs, Nationals, Pirates, and Reds and Royals. Of those teams, the Pirates don't necessarily have a lot of people that they're probably going to trade. I think they're just ahead of schedule in terms of how they're playing. They have a lot of guys that are locked up for a very long time. I mean, I think it was.
What's Gregory Blanco up to? Is that guy still playing?
I don't know, but he wasn't. I also sorted this by WAR, and if you had a negative WAR, I just took you off the list. So he might not be having a good year. So I'm not exactly sure. These are only people that are having an impact on the roster. So Mr. Joey Gallo won't be on this list if you were looking at the Yankees as trade partners. But some of the names that I thought were interesting that could be traded, and I think I would be happy if the Yankees traded for, would be. Frankie Montas, I know we've been talking about that for a while. He's having a very, very good year. I mean, we mentioned it kind of, not really looking at the numbers. We know Frankie Montas is a good person. We were talking about it before the season started, but checking in on his numbers now this year, he has a 3.26 ERA.
He's hurt,
3.14 FIP. Is he hurt now?
Mm-hmm. He's been hurt for the last couple of weeks. He's got a shoulder problem, which is why one of the reasons I went with Castillo over him.
I was going to say, you're a big Frankie Montas supporter.
I am, but I don't want to bank if I'm coming down the stretch and I need to win baseball games and I want to win a playoff series. I'm not banking on a guy with shoulder problems. I don't care how good he is. I don't care how insignificant they say it is.
Are they saying that?
Yeah, he's supposed to be back in a week or whatever, but I think that's just to maximize his trade value. Any guy with shoulder issues and a major league pitcher are a huge deal. I don't care how small or how big they say it is. I'm not mortgaging the future for a guy who's got a shoulder problem this recent.
Especially coming into a team that has a lot of people that we've been worried about that, so it would be pretty shitty to bring him into a team with like Tyone, who is pitching poorly right now, but the worry always is with him, Sevy, even Montgomery is coming off injury a couple of years ago, but like all these guys who have had injuries in the past, that'd be probably a reason to stay away from a guy like Montas.
Now that being said, if they got him,
awesome year.
If they got him, I would be ecstatic, and I'm not gonna bitch about it. But that's gonna be boiled into the back of my fucking brain that if he gets yanked in the 4th or the 5th, and we're like, well, he was kind of cruising, like that's always gonna.
It's a big gamble.
It's a big gamble, and again. Apparently, it's just a little inflammation. It's not a big deal, but it's a shoulder and a major league pitcher. I don't want to take my chances if I'm risking that big of a package.
Agreed. Looking at just if anybody listening to this is just a fan of the wins and losses argument for pitchers and statistics, Frankie Montas is having a great year with a 1.9 WAR and a great ERA. Like I said, 3.26. He has 9 losses. He's 3-9
It's for the Oakland Athletics.
I know that. I'm just saying that's more fuel to the fire of the people that are smart and don't look at wins and losses as a statistic when talking about pitcher success.
Fucking baseball writers.
Yeah, it's ridiculous. But other names, I don't know. I just this is the top of the list when you look at WAR, just specifically for.
Can I interject here where you're talking about Montas? Because what I did is I wrote down there are two teams that in my mind make sense to kind of kill two birds. If we look at we need a starting pitcher, we need a relief pitcher, and we need an outfielder. And it's the A's and the Cubs. And so I think Laureano would be a pretty fair fit for the outfield. He might not be the bat that Benintendi is this year, but he plays a very, very good center field. And he does have a good bat, much better than Gallo and much better than Hicks. And then obviously Montas with the shoulder thing, but do we see a situation where we pony up a little bit and try to bring in both of them?
Laureano, the only thing for him, and I know this isn't the end-all be-all, but he becomes a free agent in 2025, so that may cost a little bit more because he doesn't make a ton. He makes 2.45 mil this year. I'm not sure what that turns into a couple years from now, but I'm just saying in 2025 he's under team control through 2024, so that would cost a pretty penny. And I feel like, and he's a MLB. He's a great MLB outfielder. He's great defensively. He's having a pretty good year offensively, albeit his average is pretty low, but he's above average with WRC plus of 114. He's got a 1.1 WAR. He's pretty high on this list of just WAR leaders of the available players. I just think that the 2025 free agency and how locked up he is will cost a ton. And if we're trying to make a bunch of moves, I think there are other moves like we just mentioned, the Benintendi being a rental, which, that's pro-con to that. He'd be a rental, but he would cost a lot less than a Laureano. And if we're trying to be better in this specific year, I'm cool with getting the rental for less if that means we can make a lot more moves this year. You know what I mean? I would if we're talking we have a finite amount of resources this year to make trades, and if we're just playing let's play GM, the output we're getting, I mean, it's honestly a better player in my opinion in Benintendi that would cost a little less than Laureano, and I think what we would get out of Laureano is a player for a couple years, which is good, but that doesn't. I want to just get really fucking good for this year, honestly. So that's why I would favor Benintendi over him.
One counterpoint to that is that the A's gave up Manaea, Chapman, and Olsen all for way less than most people would have expected. So, and
how much do you factor in the Yankee tax? Because apparently that's a real thing.
It definitely is. I'd love to see,
especially
the package,
this year too.
But I wouldn't write it off because of his control, just based on how they've handled their previous stars, and he is probably the best player in their lineup. So
that's true. I mean,
the other team, similarly, if we want to,
go nuts,
would be the
kiddo.
Cubs for Happ and Robertson, and don't really know what that package would look like going back to the Cubs, but I feel like an Austin Wells would be in there, considering they're probably getting rid of Contreras.
Dude, I love
top tens.
I absolutely love the idea of Robertson coming back.
I do too, and I don't think he would cost
absolutely
a lot.
Love it.
This year his stats, if I may,
please do.
He has a 3.37 FIP, 2.1 ERA, which reliever ERA kind of doesn't really matter, but he's pretty high on this list in terms of overall just WAR, and among relievers is among the top of ones that will be available. He's got a 0.5 WAR, which there's nothing to write home about. He's having a Cy Young year, relievers really don't, but Clay Holmes, nowhere close to that, although nobody is. He also would be a rental, so he's an older guy who would be a rental. I think that is.
He's also been here before.
He's been here before. I think that move.
What it's all about.
If we're talking people, I feel like that won't cost much at all. He's been there. He's done that. He's older. He's a Grizzly vet. This team is a very older team. Judge said this in an interview, I think it was with Cohn, when he was talking about how cool it would be to hit the 61 mark, which he gave a classic Judge answer. He acknowledged that it'd be cool, but regardless. Judge mentioned that we were an old team, and I sat there and I looked for a second, just looked around the diamond, and we are a very old team, which I think makes us more dangerous. Obviously, there's a lot of guys with experience paired with a good amount of young talent in there. But like, I mean, look at the guys around the team. They got Carpenter, Donaldson. Like the team's old, like very old, and it's not the the baby bombers that we like just a few short years ago. We got really fucking old, which is
it's the baby bombers entering their primes, and then a lot of other people who are exiting their primes but are factors of the team. Yeah,
like nobody's young, which I guess you could play that argument again to counter blowing it up is like if you don't that's the obvious gamble here is if we're an old team and we blow up the farm now, we might be fucked for a very long time.
I don't think you do, though, because, like, looking at this, just based on, and again, this is me, not fucking Brian Cashman, but this I made sure to preserve the guys that are, I mean, out of this list, the people that you're losing that could realistically be big-time contributors soon, Waldachuk, Pereira, Peraza. I'm not that high on Medina. I know Murph is, but he's very toolsy, but I don't know that he is the solution. I see him factoring on a team like the Yankees kind of to a bullpen role.
I'm with you.
I mean, Trey Sweeney's years away. Warren is a maybe back-end rotation guy by the time he gets here. Bro isn't going to be a catcher. We talked about it. Gomez is years away. That's what I'm getting at. Like a situation like this where you're giving up a lot of our top 20, top 30 guys are very, very young. And that's part of the reason why I think that you can do this and you can trade these top guys and you can trade some of the guys. Peraza would hurt. Waldachuk would hurt. These guys are really, really fucking good. But if you're looking at those two as the main two guys that are going to be contributors soon, you can rebound from that. You have Volpe. I mean, you've got Dominguez. Say what you want.
Your list would retain Volpe and Dominguez.
Volpe, Dominguez, Wells.
Yeah.
Heel.
Which are all like,
Wazinski.
Franchise players, potentially.
Cabrera, Wazinski. Like, you're saving a lot of the farm. Yes, you're going to take a hit, but that's what you have to do in order to get these players. I read it somewhere. It's very cliche. I'm sure you guys have heard it. A good trade hurts both sides. And every one of these trades would hurt us, but they would hurt the other team too. They would help us a lot.
Wouldn't hurt us this year, which is the big thing.
But going forward, it wouldn't either.
Can I read the room on one of the trades that Chandler brought up?
I would love for you to read the room on it, Damon.
Castillo. I'm not too into the Castillo trade.
I don't get it. I know you guys talked about this before. I just don't get it.
That's a little much, I think, too.
I just like not. I really don't have any data to back this up, but I feel like it's one of those it is one of those feeling things where I feel like he's gonna come to New York and just be fucking terrible.
That's not an unfair thing to say. I will back Chandler up because he's been preaching it, and I did look into the numbers, and he's having a dominant year. And just by the eye test, looking at him, he's got some nasty shit.
Not even this year.
I know he does. I'm not discounting that. I'm just saying the guy's pitched for the Reds his whole career.
The Reds thing is a real thing.
The Reds thing is a real thing.
The Reds.
It's like, I don't know. I have this weird feeling where he's gonna come to the Yankees and just be fucking terrible. And I have this weird gut eye test feeling that he's just gonna be not a good player for the Yankees.
Who's the last person from the Reds that you're talking about?
Sonny Gray.
No, he came from the Athletics.
He came from the A's.
In my brain, I was doing the same math you did, and I was on Murph's. I was thinking the same thing Murph was. And I was like, wait, hold on a second. He went to the Reds.
You
after.
said the Reds.
Yeah, he went to the Reds after.
The Reds are basically our fucking farm team. I don't know. Boone came from the Reds. Didi came from the Reds.
But
this isn't a Reds only thing. It's just a personal feeling that I feel like he's not going to do well at the Yankees. It's just a feeling I had.
Yeah, I think the one thing with him that differs him from a guy. I mean, Sonny Gray still plays in this conversation because he's coming from a small market team. He came from the Athletics, coming here. So that is a fair point.
What are you going to do? Just never trade for a small market player?
I know. Well, I'm saying that's something that I don't think it's going to deter you from making the move at all. I still want to do it, and it can't because that's just. Most of the teams that are sellers are probably going to be small market teams. So you can't just say that to everybody. And
I'm only going to trade for Red Sox, Astros. No, you can't do that.
Never going to get a deal done. But I will back you up on this with the Castillo thing. His shit is nasty, and he's having a damn good year. He's got 1.8 WAR, which is the third highest on this list of people that I've pulled up, right below Frankie Montas and Tyler Mahle. Which, I mean, we can give some attention to. I mean, I'm not gonna lie to you. I haven't watched a lot of Tyler Mahle baseball outings in my days, but
big fan of him.
Are you actually?
Swear, yeah, I actually watch him a lot.
Because he's the top guy on this list right now with a 2 flat WAR. He's got a 3. He's got a 4.48 actual ERA, which isn't great, but he's got a 3.54 FIP and 3.18 expected ERA.
He had a horrible start to the year too.
So his numbers are actually better than what they look to be. Not a lot of home runs per 9. He walks a good amount of people, but I think
he's a red too, isn't he?
That's what I'm saying. That's why I bring him up because he's also a red, and he's got the second most innings pitched out of anybody on this list. He got 92.1. Yeah. So it's just a guy who's going to eat innings, and that's a name. Either. Well, he's also pitching well. I'm just saying it's
my whole point.
Don't be shocked if we ponied up for other positions, and then I wouldn't be pissed if we just got it.
I would be pissed if we didn't pony up. If we got a mid to back end rotation arm, I would be pissed. I would be furious because that doesn't solve anything. Right. All that does is put us exactly where we are right now. If you pony up and you go get Luis Castillo, a guy that throws 100 with fucking 20 inches of break, and he comes to New York and he shits the bed, so fucking be it. You tried. If you go out and you go get Mahle, or you go out and get some
Quintana.
If you go get some fucking cuck from the NL West that's throwing to a 5 ERA, but his metrics are good, and he comes out and he's a mid-rotation fucking arm, then that's a failure. That is a catastrophic failure. You have one option right here, and that's to go for the throat or don't do anything at fucking all.
Okay.
I don't know.
I'm fully on board. I'm on the Luis Castillo train, and I think he might be the only answer now that Montas is dealing with the injury stuff.
I have a weird feeling. Hear me out here. I have a weird feeling that Tyler Mahle, or the fuck you pronounce his last name, he could be one of those people that just like signs the Yankees and then Matt Blake turns him into an ace.
That's fine.
Like,
but
he has that kind of like that. I know you can't risk that at all. I'm not saying we should risk it, but I'm just saying I feel like that's the kind of guy that would happen to.
Let Matt Blake do that to the guys that are like
I agree. I'm just throwing it out there. That's a good
point to bring up too. Is like, let's look for that kind of guy in the lower tier deals that we also want to make. Is like, I mean, Matt Blake hasn't seen David Robertson, so maybe we could get the vintage David Robertson out of David. Like, you know what I mean? That's kind of cool.
Dude, I'm so down. Dude, David Robertson was, a Yankee for fucking 10 years. He won a World Series with us. I am so down to bring him down. I love watching him run out there, especially if there was a fight. He'll sprint out there no matter what.
Bring me David Robertson over anybody, honestly.
But anyway, Luis Castillo. One last thing, Luis Castillo and Tyler or his fucking last name is.
Mahle.
They have pretty much identical contracts right now. They're both in arbitration next year, and they're free agents in 2024.
Damn it!
So they if we're going one or the other, obviously Castillo is the guy.
Track?
Yeah. No, that's just.
I said Spot Track. I said Spot Rack. It's not. I don't fucking know.
I thought you said spotrat.com.
No, I thought it was Spot Rack.
Look up Spot Rat. You're gonna find a completely different website.
Like I actually forget the name of it.
It's the one you look at contracts on. I don't fucking work here, man.
You do work here.
I saw Damon his eyes darting back and forth. I thought that was the.
Dude, these monitors are crazy, man. I actually researched stuff while we were recording. It's a lot of experience.
Sounds like a guy who's got his own apartment now.
It does. I usually just react to everything.
Can we bring some attention to... We've mentioned it a bunch. I called my shot on him a while back.
Fucking knew it.
David Bednar needs to be talked about. I don't think if we're going to go after a guy like David Robertson, I don't think that would necessarily deter us from making a move for Bednar. But I think Bednar... I think it might, honestly, because Bednar would be the... go out, get him player move, like give up a good amount because, like I said, we were mentioning for other players, he's got team control up until 2027. Like through 2026, he's got team control. He's free agent 2027. He's only making $700,000, which is like I think the league minimum. And I think if we don't want to pony up and the price tag is too high on him, which some people have said, I don't know who it was, but the expectation is that he might cost a little more, which is fair. He's got a lot of team control, and he looks like he's about to become a dominant pitcher in this league. I think David Robertson is the obviously cheaper version of that. Like, if you're going to go out and say, like, I want to get an outfielder, a starting pitcher, a reliever, and then maybe a depth piece, and that's kind of sort of what you did already, right? You did those 4 positions?
I did outfielder, starter, reliever, and then minor leaguer.
Okay. That's exactly what we're probably going to end up doing. That's our wish list. And then it's like how you want to use our current assets to go and get those players, and like where do you want to pony up in specific positions. So if we aren't able to get a Castillo, would you rather, like, I don't want to go out and get Bednar if it means not getting Castillo, but I don't think we're going to get both, because I think we need to pony up and get an outfielder. So I think of those 3 positions, I think this is the tier 3 that we need, because especially since we have like Loaizaga coming back, hopefully Chapman figures it out. But
that's a big hopefully.
I know, and that's why I bring it up again, because it's a big hopefully that Chapman figures it out. It's a big hopefully because even when Loaizaga was healthy, he didn't look great. So I don't think it's unrealistic to think that the bullpen is a major need as well. Obviously, we do have.
Do you think it's more? Do you think it's more of a need than outfield?
I do, and that reason is because the rest of the offense can get it done on their own. They're one of the best offenses in baseball. Albeit, I know you're about to say the bullpen has been one of the best in baseball, but
No, I'm not.
The difference is the bullpen you can never have too much of, and if one person, like, you can't tell me that getting David Bednar, a guy who goes 2 innings plus sometimes in outings, he's gotten more. He's on my fantasy team. I've seen a lot of him this year. He has like 4 or 5 2-inning saves, just maybe because the Pirates don't really have any other people, and if they want to hold on to a win, they're gonna put him out there in the 8th, and then he's obviously gonna stay out there in the 9th as well. But the man's good. He throws a fucking gas, throws 100, and he's under a ton of team control. This is a move that would make sense for a lot of years, and he would add to a bullpen that's already nasty. So then it honestly, this is a move that makes sense as well, because like if you don't go out there and get a lock it up Luis Castillo or other starting pitcher, that's the 1B move would be, and I wouldn't even consider it a 1B. Is like, okay, you didn't get the guy you want as a starting pitcher. That's fine. Just load up the bullpen so that your starting pitcher that may be lacking in a Jameson Taillon can go short, and you can pass it to an extended bullpen that can be Clay Holmes, David Bednar, Jonathan Loaizaga, Chapman if he's whatever. But like the rest of them, Wandy Peralta, like that would be the most ridiculous bullpen ever. We could go, like a starter would only need to go.
I mean, shit, the 2015 Royals won with just a dominant bullpen.
Exactly. So you a starter in this sense, if we got him, who like I said is he can go 2 innings. You now have a bullpen that the starters only have to go in a playoff game to like the 4th inning.
You said that I was going to disagree with you, and you're wrong, because I actually think that the bullpen is one of borderline A in what needs to be done. Yes, the bullpen's been great, but this Red Sox series showed what we've been talking about the entire year. You have a bunch of unproven guys that are either failed starters, Loaizaga, stuff like that, or guys that just don't have the innings. You have got to solidify that come the playoffs, and I think that that's almost more of a need than the rotation, because if you go into a playoff series, a rotation's 3 guys, 4 maybe. If you have that luxury of having 4 guys, that means you've either got a nice lead, or that's pretty much it. You got a nice lead, so you can let Montgomery go. But I think, the bullpen come October is the biggest piece, whatever. Like, yes, it would be fucking badass to roll out Cole, Castillo, Sevy, boom, boom, boom. And then you've got Monty if you have that luxury, like I said. And then you've got Taillon for long relief. You got Nestor as the jackknife. You have those options coming out of the bullpen. Sweet. That's fine and dandy, but you can make do with your rotation. Like a rotation of Cole, Sevy, and your choice of Monty, Nestor, Jameson, Taillon for Game 3 is not bad. That's nothing to scoff at. That's something that can contend in the World Series. That's something that can contend all throughout October. Bringing in a solidified, badass reliever would just absolutely take that to the next level. A starter would be nice, but a reliever I think that's a damn near a necessity.
So if you're prioritizing here, Castillo and Bednar, who are you going for?
Castillo. I mean,
because of what it also means, though, because Castillo might if we're talking before, your limited amount of pieces that we have to trade. Like if let's call it like we have a finite amount of resources that we're trading. Castillo's going to cost a little more than Bednar. Obviously, he's a starter and he's got a little more elite stuff than Bednar, and he's younger. Do you think that what the extra assets it would take to get Castillo is worth going after him over Bednar? Because I think
yes, I do. And here's the X factor to me, not the X factor, but the deciding factor in this and why I lean more towards a starter is Nestor Cortes. And that sounds ass backwards, but let me take you there. Nestor Cortes has that pedigree, not necessarily over years and years of playoff success, but he has experience coming out of every situation, whether it be high leverage late, long reliever, starter. And I'm thinking October right now. I'm not thinking the back half of the season. I know that's jinxing it and going against my own words, but at this point, when you're making moves at the deadline, you have to be thinking October. I go starter over reliever, and that's not contradicting myself, because I do think of elite reliever. I think of Michael Fulmer. I think a David Bednar, a Diego Castillo. Adding an extra arm that's been there and done that is huge. But if you can roll out that 1-2-3 combo of Cole, Castillo, Cole, Montas, and then Sevy, you have 3 aces or high end. I mean, Cole's an ace. Say what you want. Yes, he struggled. Yes, he's gave up runs and fucking Devers hit him to the moon. Cole's an ace. Sevy is a borderline ace. Luis Castillo is an ace. You run that out, that's as good a 1-2-3 as you're going to find in baseball. And then you have the guys to back him up. And then on top of that, you have Nestor Cortes. If you can move Nestor Cortes to the bullpen, like I've said many times, that's not a demotion. That's your confidence in him that he can come out and he can do it in any situation come October. And I'm totally fine with that. Because if you get this guy, he becomes a de facto reliever, fine by me.
I think this whole conversation has pretty much decided that pitching is the area of need over fielding, over hitting. I think that's just 100%. That's what it seems, and it seems also like there's better trade options on the pitching side. I guess outside of those few names, we start to fall off. Like I don't know, it's interesting because the 3 names that I circle right now are Castillo, Bednar, Robertson. I wouldn't mind going all in and then keeping the bats we have and just getting all 3 of those guys. Like that would double down on the pitching side.
So here's the thing. I think that there are more not top heavy outfield bats that you can plug in and still upgrade.
That's what I mean.
Michael Taylor, has been thrown in conversations. We wouldn't be giving up too much for him, and he won a Gold Glove last year. So put him in there, get rid of Gallo, bring in 2 pitchers that are at the top end of the list on who's there. That's wonderful.
Fuck, Andujar's an upgrade right now.
That's what I mean, too. Like we have in-house options that we were mentioning before that if you want to go for the kill shot and the teams that really, like, at the end of the day, and this is why I love how great our pitching is, and that's why I love this team, is that on a bad night, baseball is a streaky game, but it's more streaky for batters. And that's just a fact. I mean, you can go in and the reason is because if you get a bunch of different guys, especially in the bullpen, that are 1 inning at a time, if that guy doesn't have it, you can notice it early and you can pull him. He has no impact on that game. And then if you have an embarrassment of riches of people to have to choose from, you could be like, Clay Holmes is having a bad night. Okay, he doesn't look great. Probably not going to yank Clay Holmes is a bad example, but then you could throw in a Bednar, and then the net impact of that player is not much. Whereas if you have a batter who's just looking lifeless at the plate, like where Gallo has looked, usually in a playoff game where he's your starter, you're not going to pull him, you don't really have any options. Otherwise, you have to switch, and then it messes up the whole fielding thing. Like having an embarrassment of riches to just because also the playoffs, like we keep alluding to, we're looking towards, is just managing your way through it and trying to find people to like get outs, and that's what having an embarrassment of riches with pitchers would be, and that's just awesome.
So I think that, the way that this Yankee lineup is built in this roster and the way that Boone manages it, and we've talked about this a ton, but he manages this team for 162. Moves the lineup around, plays different guys, and people are playing different positions. But when you're in the playoffs, you're playing your best players every game. Or at least you should be, right? And I think that right now, because we've been able to switch out all these players, all these different positions, and still be on a historic run and have 61 games won in July, like that's just a testament to how good this offense is. And I'm very confident we could just drop Gallo right now and still have a productive lineup. So that's just another example of why I feel like, we're going back to this again and again and again, but it's just reiterating what we just talked about in terms of if we're going to go for someone to trade deadline, it should be some sort of pitcher. And I think going back to Chandler's point, which really kind of made me decide on I think we need a starting pitcher over a relief pitcher, which going into this podcast, that was not really my mentality, but I think that, we do have guys who are starting pitchers. Prime example of Nestor Cortez, who can be thrown into a bullpen situation and thrive. So if we go out there and get another starting pitcher, it just gives us more just kind of options at that front. And we can switch people around in that rotation and still utilize people we currently have starting in the bullpen. So I feel like, again, starting pitching is where we really need to focus in this trade deadline for sure.
Agreed.
Was that the hammer right there?
No, there was a car outside, so I was muting.
I was saying that car revving agreed with you, but Luke muted me.
You gotta get the sounds of the city in there.
That's what I was gonna say. And now we're just fucking frauds.
Are there any other
we
names?
don't even live in the city.
Whatever, man. Are there any other names that we haven't mentioned yet that you want to make a case for? Because other names that I have on this list, before the season started, there are two prime candidates that are going to be traded that I don't think we obviously need anymore. And those are the catchers that are going to be available, Sean Murphy and Wilson Contreras. Those are two of the top people on this list of available players that in terms of WAR, they're having great years, but we don't need one because we have a all-star starting catcher in our guy. So Trevino, I forgot his name.
Jose Trevino.
I think
if our all-star catcher's name.
I will say this. If Contreras or Sean Murphy falls in your lap, then you think about it, but I wouldn't make it a priority. I'm not opposed to it, though. Like I'm saying, if the perfect situation like Stanton, we weren't in the outfield or in the market for an outfielder, but the perfect situation came along and he became a Yankee. If something like that, obviously it's a little different. Neither of them are making $325 million, blah, 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 blah. I'm just saying if a perfect situation like that came along, okay, I wouldn't be upset by it.
I wouldn't, because that would mean that we didn't get all of the other areas of need. Because if we're using, like I said before, our finite amount of resources to trade for a Wilson Contreras or a Sean Murphy, I think that would cost a lot, and that would mean that we didn't go out and get a Castillo or a Bednar or those other people. So obviously, like I wouldn't be really, really upset, but I would. I'd be as upset as I would be in a scenario for this, because we would have a good player on our hands, but we also have Trevino, who just made an all-star team and is the best defensive catcher probably in baseball. So I think that'd be a big miss if we got one of those catchers, because of the ripple effects that would have mean.
Well, it also just kind of like, aside from being, a catcher position is so much more important than just offensive stats and just catching the baseball. Like, they need to mesh well with the pitcher, and that's something that is not really talked about in the forefront.
That's a good point
of the trade. Like, they need to. One of the most important parts of a fucking catcher is working with the pitcher, and if that doesn't work out, then we're screwing up two positions.
And that might be
with Gary Sanchez.
Yeah.
Like, it wasn't even necessarily the errors. It wasn't the pass balls. It wasn't the offensive production. It says so much when you're guys that are tenured veterans. Garrett Cole, Corey Kluber, Tyone will not throw to your starting catcher.
Yeah.
And that's your point, Damon. So you may have just convinced me otherwise. That being said, if we got one of them, I'm not going to be upset by it. I'm not going to be like, oh, fuck, Wilson Contreras is a Yankee.
Sure, yeah.
God damn it.
No,
but I do see what you're saying, and I don't – it's not an area need. It's not something that I want. I'm not holding my breath doing the thing that I do every trade deadline where I'm typing in every name that I want, just fucking hitting refresh on Twitter and DMing guys that are just like, oh, yeah, my brother's cousin's fucking stepbrother's uncle, like, knows – Carlos Correa. He said that he's looking at the Yankees.
For sale.
Yeah, like I'm not doing that.
He's a realtor.
Yeah, I'm not doing that for those guys. But if at the end of the day, I'm not going to be pissed off because those guys.
No, but I think Damon. Now that you brought that up, Damon, I even more so would be pissed. Outside of the amount of resources and where that would mean we spent it on catcher and not pitching.
Damon's spot
I think on top of that, I think removing Jose Trevino from catching for this pitching staff, what that means. I mean, you mentioned the personal catchers. We haven't had Higgy was the personal catcher. We haven't had that once at all this year for the people that preferred Higgy, obviously Cole. But like that doesn't happen anymore, and that's a thing. That's a whole conversation we were talking about for the entire year last year. And obviously, you look at this team, and you said how much of an impact the catcher has and how much they mesh with the pitching staff. What's the best thing we have this year? It's our pitching. And is it a lot to do with the actual players? Is it a lot to do with, Matt Blake? Yeah, but Jose Trevino has a fucking huge impact, and it's not measurable because it's not like a specific like number that you could say like his team chemistry related to the ERA being low. But you see it every night.
You see it when he's playing. Yeah,
at point blank. You see it because all of the pitchers are not requesting a personal catcher. They all want Jose Trevino, and he's an all-star this year.
That's one thing that's hats off to us, and I'm just convincing myself more and more to side with Damon here that I don't want an elite catcher on the trade market, which is asinine. But I do get what you're saying, and that's such a testament to how good these guys are at their craft. Like Higashioka, yes, his bat has been fucking ice cold this year. I mean, just fucking bad. Trevino, his bat's cooled off. He's still hitting well. He's an all-star. Fantastic. But either way, these guys are having a true platoon, a true split. They're both getting playing time, and you're not seeing any sort of production dip because they both understand what they're doing, and they both understand how to call a baseball game, and these guys trust them.
And I think that is a great, point to what I was going to say of, a guy like Wilson Contreras is not a guy who's going to be splitting time catching. Like, he's an all-star catcher. Yeah. He's been there, done that. He's not going to – I could be wrong, but I don't feel like he's going to mesh well with a platoon catching situation on the Yankees. And this is what we've done, this is what we're built with, and this is what Boone has done. And bringing in a guy who's used to playing every single day might fuck up with that kind of mojo.
I mean, we talked about how useless Gallo would be if we went for an outfielder, and he's not playing a ton right now as he shouldn't be, but if you go out and trade for Wilson Contreras, you're just the opposite is happening here. You're making one of the people that just made the All-Star team useless now. I would be really pissed. In short, and to wrap this up, I'd be furious, honestly, if we got Sean Murphy or Wilson Contreras, which if you just read that as a headline, that would sound ridiculous. But for all of the reasons we just mentioned, we would sit here on this podcast the day after landing Wilson Contreras, and I would just be like, that this makes no sense. This is the first All-Star did Gary make any All-Star teams?
Yeah.
Regardless, he's an all-star catcher. He's one of the tops in the league. He's clearly not an area of need. With that being said, going back to some of the other names that we haven't mentioned, Ian Happ. We mentioned it a lot on the episode last week. I wouldn't be upset if Ian Happ was on the team. I think I would really prefer Benintendi to Ian Happ, just because of I think
it's the defense that.
Yeah, I mean that's the type of player that I like. Everybody listening to this podcast, and you guys know that defense and stolen bases and not making errors in the field and all that stuff is what I like to see, not just necessarily home runs. And he adds that nice change of pace. more balls in play to me is more fun. And he is batting over 300 right now. And it would be, Judge said this before as to why we're playing so well. And we've said it before, we could beat you in so many ways. And he would be the epitome of adding a different wrinkle to this team. There's not a lot of batting average on this team. Although we have been playing well, there's not a lot of high batting averages outside of Judge and like DJ kind of, but like DJ isn't really in that 300 run range either. Like Judge is the highest batting average.
Fucking Glaber's at 270.
Glaber's at 270, which is fun because we said we're going to look up one day and Glaber's going to be hitting 270, which now he is. And it's just, you add a guy who he'd have the highest batting average. He's batting 317 right now. So a guy like that who you can honestly smack him right in the center of the lineup. And he's
a
lefty.
Leadoff in my projected.
I might have him at leadoff also. Like he's a true leadoff guy. He doesn't have a lot of stolen bases, which I'm kind of shocked by.
He's not fast.
He looks like he would be fast. Maybe it's the hair.
He's pretty slow.
Maybe
It's got to be the hair, Cotton.
He runs hard. He runs hard. Yeah. No, but I think that is another reason to prioritize him over everybody else on this list for the outfielders, because he's going to come in and just be that different wrinkle. Like he's gonna be the guy that you can get everybody else, get him on, and then everybody else can knock him in, or like it's just.
Can I ask you guys something?
The differentiation in the lineup is what would be nice.
Since I think we've all kind of put a bow on the trade stuff, but
yeah.
Unless anybody has some closing remarks there, but I do have a question just for the team that this plays before and after the trades. This weekend aside, because I know Donaldson just had a fucking career series against the Red Sox. What are your thoughts on a Donaldson-Carpenter split at DH? Like against lefties and righties? Because I think that would make the most sense. I look at the numbers. They speak for themselves. Carpenter's fucking raking. Donaldson is struggling against righties. Again, take these last 4 games out of it. I know he raked. I know he hit the grand slam. He's hitting fucking nukes left and right. But over the course of however many fucking games we played now, 90, 80-something, whatever, he's really, really struggled against righties, and he hasn't been amazing against lefties, but I that's something that I wouldn't mind seeing more in the back half, and I think that would be something that's interesting going into a playoff series, because right now, with these moves, I have Benintendi, Judge, Rizzo, Stanton, DJ sliding into that 5 hole if you go get a Benintendi, and then Donaldson, Carpenter, platoon at DH. And then obviously that's going to change based on people moving around. DJ's not going to play third every day, yada, yada, yada. But I guess my main question to you guys is, what are your thoughts on that split? Because I don't think it's going to happen, but I think it's something that should be looked at.
It'd be a good way to get his bat in the lineup, and I feel like they just kind of have to keep giving Carpenter at bats until he doesn't hit at this point.
I agree.
If that never happens, then great. But.
Agreed.
Yeah, Carpenter, you have to have that bat in the lineup, and I don't think that Donaldson is he's not one of those guys in the Yankees where you can just he hasn't earned a full blown starting job. Like he's playing good defense, and there's nothing. That's not a knock on Donaldson. I personally think Donaldson's going to be very good for us down the stretch, but it's not like you're subbing out a Judge or something to get. Or even like a Stanton or a Glaber or DJ, guys that have earned their spots on this team in order to get Carpenter in the lineup. I think that a split with them would be very good. I think I wouldn't be upset about it. I think Donaldson would be pissed, but I mean,
I don't think he would though. That's because, and that's one thing I will say this: I do not like Josh Donaldson. That is not surprising to anybody here. I don't like him. I think he's an asshole. Do I think he's good for this team? Yeah. I do. I don't. That doesn't mean I have to like him. I think that he's willing to do whatever it takes. Truly, people say that in the media, do what they have to do. I think that Josh Johnson truly is willing to do what it takes to win a ring. And I think if that means splitting time with Carpenter, he would do that. Do I think he'd be thrilled and like, oh, honey, guess what? Bring the kids out. I got fucking platooned with a guy that's 36 and hasn't had a base hit in 3 years. No. But I think if the Yankees came in, said, look, this is what we're doing. Carpenter's hitting the fucking cover off the ball. This is just something we have to do right now. It gives us the best chance to win. I think he'd be okay with it. And that being said, to Damon's point, it's not going to really take that much time away from him. because his defense is so fucking good, he's not going to lose a ton of playing time at third. You just have to find ways to get everybody's bat in the lineup, and that's a creative solution to getting Carpenter in and getting him some at bats.
I also feel like we what?
No, go ahead, Dan.
I was just saying quickly, like we had that luxury with this lineup to ride the hot hand, and come playoff time, I feel like hopefully that these lineups kind of just like decide themselves based off who's hitting, who's not. But I agree with you, Chandler. I think that if they're both producing the same way they are right now, then there's no reason to not do that switch.
Dude, he has his season stats so far. I mean,
Carpenter or Donaldson?
Carpenter. His season stats at 36 years old. This season, there's not a big enough sample size that his sabermetrics have populated on Baseball Savant, but just the regular metrics, he has 22 hits, 10 of them are home runs, 22 RBIs, batting .344 with a .447 on base, .859 slug for 1.306 OPS. He's tearing the fucking cover off the ball. And
I'm not going to compare him to Barry Bonds, but what I will say is that when Barry Bonds had his 73 home run season, he only had 140 hits, and so every other hit was a home run, and that's what Carpenter is doing right now.
Compare him to Barry Bonds.
I mean, he is just absolutely, if you want to pick out pitches that he's mashing, he is dominating four-seam fastballs, and he's got a 10-run value just on that pitch alone, which is in line with what his entire career is. Do not throw Matt Carpenter a fastball, because he will take that shit to the fucking moon.
He's sending bombs, so they're not giving me home runs. They're fucking nukes.
I love
a lot
Matt
of unicorns.
Carpenter.
Oh my goodness, he is.
No, I hope he never cools down. You know what he kind of reminds me of, but just like a much better, at least in the sample size version, is Todd Frazier. And
I knew you were going to say that, and I was praying you were going to say him. Yeah, absolutely.
I'm glad you
That got me
enjoyed
fired
that.
up.
I mean,
I was once you said who he reminds me of, immediately I thought Todd Frazier, and I was like, if he doesn't say Todd Frazier, I'm going to say Todd Frazier.
Yep, there you go. He's got that kind of old guy aura around him. He's out there just fucking mad. I mean, Todd Frazier was great for the Yankees.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
He was the leader of the thumbs down movement. I
Sure
mean,
was.
Carpenter's got the fucking mustache of all mustaches, so
and
some would say that's a new thing.
well, I will say too, if we're talking about lefty versus right splits, he's just mashing both sides, so it's less for him than it is more like for Donaldson for the reason for the switch. One, it's him playing really well. That's what's creating this conversation, but like he would be the guy to play against both sides. Like
Carpenter's a third baseman by trade, isn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Does he have a Gold Glove there?
Maybe a while ago. It wouldn't
up.
have been within the last 5 years.
I mean, he also has an MVP, right?
No, he does not.
I don't
You sure?
think he's an MVP.
He doesn't. He's been up there, but he's never won it. Telling you, dude.
I can double check on that.
No MVP. He may have a Gold Glove. He's a damn good third baseman. I told you this when we got him, that my number one memory of Carpenter, I went to a Cubs Cardinals game, which shout out to the Cubs fan base because those guys are fucking incredible. But Carpenter went 4 for 4 with 3 home runs and a double off the Ivy. It was fucking
He
awesome.
came in 4th in MVP in 2013, 12th in 2015, and 9th in 2018.
It's pretty good.
And then he was like the worst player in baseball last year, but we're not talking about that anymore.
No Gold Gloves?
Dude, that's fucking crazy.
Um,
No Gold Gloves, I don't think.
no, he won a
No.
Silver Slugger, but no Gold Gloves.
He played a little bit of second base there too.
Yeah.
What's this short? He won a Silver Slugger at shortstop? Oh no, sorry. SS and SS. Got confused. It's late. Whatever.
The one, like, I went on to Baseball Savant just now, and when you go into the top right, and you can just, like, you're going to search the name, but it tells you the trending players. Matt Carpenter is the number 1 on this list right now.
Yeah, it's
He's
crazy.
up 150%, and he has 3 fire emojis next to his name, right above Shohei Ohtani. So,
That's all I need to know.
is he better than Shohei Ohtani?
Best metric right
I
there.
think so. But then one thing to put a button on this conversation is I did fact check Chandler, and he is correct with the splits. For the season, he's batting 170 against lefties. One thing to note, though, that I know you're not making shit up, but like they're kind of already doing this. Like, he has 62 plate appearances against lefties. Maybe this is just, I don't think this is just circumstance of like facing more righties than lefties. I think it's definitely a managerial thing, is that he has 220 plate appearances against righties and 62 against lefties.
And there's not as many lefties as there are righties either.
Okay, but I think...
And he was on the injured list.
Whatever, man.
Donaldson's in the lineup most nights.
Yeah.
It's worth the conversation is all I'm saying.
Yeah, it's true. I mean, I think he's the only person that would... Like, who would... I mean... I don't know if it's a direct split, though. I think maybe if they split... Are you saying one splits and one DHs, one plays the field?
No, I'm
Are
saying
play?
I'm saying the days that you're going to put DJ at third, that you split DH opportunities between Donaldson and Carpenter. If you're
because he can also
just
platoon
DH.
out there for like we were talking about DJ preseason and how we're going to fit DJ in the lineup. We could do the same thing with Carpenter and like, you know, give Hicks a day off in the outfield. I know he's been doing well, but like mix it up that way. Like, you know, like how DJ was going to be worked in.
Yeah.
Same thing with Carpenter, which is crazy to say. And
like Murph said, you got to
July
keep playing
11th.
him until the bat cools off.
True.
If it ever does, which my vote is no.
No, my vote's a no as well.
He's
All right.
over under on Matt Carpenter home runs this year before we go.
Remaining or
total?
17.
17
He's 10 right now, right? You think he's going to hit 10 again?
Why don't you just spit in his face?
yeah, but he hit 10.
I feel like that's fair. You don't know what the deadline's going to bring in. You know, I don't know.
That's true.
I feel like to expect him to hit 10, like, all right, maybe 20 is the over-under, but...
No, I think 17 is a fair over under. I would take the over, but
I would also take the over.
I'm going
I
46.
feel like that's a fair enough. Okay.
I'm kidding.
That seems fair.
we were talking about the trio of Yankees to
I'm
hit
going
40 home
18.
runs. Is he going to be the third? It's not going to be Rizzo. It's going to be Matt Carpenter.
That would be fucking wild.
You would win an MVP if that's the case. Fuck Judge. All right. That'll do it for me. Does anybody else have anything they want to chat about before we close out here?
No, I'm hungry.
All
No,
right.
sir. Go Yanks.
Thank you guys for tuning in.